Welcome to the Titans Time Podcast, your Tennessee Titans podcast for the Pigskin Podcast Network. My name is Tanner Staggs, and I'm here, as always, with my brother Tyler Staggs. Tyler, why don't you go ahead and tell everybody how they can support the podcast?
If you want to support the podcast, first thing you can do is go check out our merch. I have one of the hoodies finally on the way. We have them added to the Shopify website. We have regular hoodies. We have some like crop top hoodies for the women. We even added some beanies. Our winter stuff is finally out, our fall and winter stuff. So all you have to do is go to titans-time.myshopify.com/collections/all. Found out after going to the link of just putting the /collections, it doesn't take you to everything that's actually on there. So need to add in that /all. Another thing you can do to support the podcast, if you're listening to the audio version, whether it be on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, go make sure you are following the podcast. Leave us a 5-star rating and leave us some comments, some questions, just a review. We really appreciate it. If you're watching on YouTube, go down. That subscribe button's red. Click it. Turn it gray. Turn on the post notifications. Like the video. Share the video with any football fan. And even if they're not football fans, just your family and friends. And go down, leave us some comments. We got the Jaguars up this week. Let us know your thoughts on this upcoming game and how you think it's going to go.
Also, make sure that you're following us on social media. On Twitter, it's Titans_time. On Facebook, Titans Time. And on Instagram, Titans Time Podcast. All right, Tyler, let's get into this. Let's talk about this upcoming game against the Jaguars in Jacksonville. I mean, we're coming off of a loss here, a pretty rough loss, and it's time to make a turnaround.
It is. I know that loss was a little bit easier for you. It took me a couple days. It did. I would see more stuff about it, and I would get pissed off again.
I think anyone that watched the reaction video definitely knew that it really hit you hard, and I mean, probably sent into, you could say, you wouldn't call it a mini depression because you were more pissed off than anything, but just a few days full of rage there for you.
It was, and again, I would think that I was good and then say more stuff about it and get pissed off again. But hey, that's in the past. Last thing I'll say on it, I couldn't even bring myself to go back and rewatch the game because I knew it would just piss me off again. So, but we're on to Jacksonville, and
well, that's probably a good thing. Now it's completely behind you, so no need to go back and watch it again, unless you just definitely want to pick out every single little. Unless you want to find things that are wrong with the team, that's when you go back and watch that game because you can find things that are wrong with the team.
Exactly.
So now it's time to get into the injury report. And it has been a long one this week.
Yeah, you better make sure you take a deep breath in before you really start on this because you're going to be talking for a while.
Well, I'm not as concerned about that as I am. We probably, through the reading of this injury report, will lose like half our viewership. So just hang with me here. Because as long as it was, it's not like it's all limited, and then full participants for like people that...
Or it's not like... out.
It's like so many did not practice, and then a lot of people that were limited yesterday, full participants today. But anyways, let's get into it. The people that did not practice: Aaron Brewer, Jayon Brown, Tommy Hudson, Julio Jones, Brett Kern, Taylor Lewan, Racy McMath, and then we have Danico Autry, who's a limited participant on Wednesday, did not practice today on Thursday, and then Derrick Henry, he's just resting, don't worry about that. And then the limited participants, Nick Westbrook, there you go with a wide receiver. So that's definitely not good. And then Ty Sambrailo listed as a foot injury. And then as for full participants, and I believe all of these guys with the exception of the last two that I'm going to name, were limited yesterday. The last two were full participants yesterday. But full participants today, Kari Blasingame, A.J. Brown, huge. Bud Dupree, huge. Rashawn Evans, Sharif Finch, Chris Jackson. Ben Jones also limited. Jeremy McNichols, Roger Saffold, Jeffrey Simmons, and then Caleb Farley and Tierra Tark, both listed on the injury report, but full participants for both days there. So, extremely long. Please take things over from here so I can catch my breath and recuperate.
So, same where reporters were talking to Bud Dupree today, we know that we haven't really seen him the past couple of weeks. And
that's right.
He admitted that was because mentally he was ready to go, but physically he overdone it a little bit. He came back a little too soon, probably should have waited a little bit longer, and it did have a little bit of an effect on his knee. And even though he wants to be out there now, he's knowing, okay, I have to be smarter about this and listen to my body and know when I can actually go full board. It's huge, like you said, to see AJ back as a full participant. We got a lot of our linemen on there, and even with as bad as some of them have played, you're like, okay, we really don't need all of these guys that didn't practice today.
We certainly don't need anything worse.
Like the guys that didn't practice today, we need them to make it back tomorrow, hopefully.
Absolutely.
That way we know that maybe they're good to go for the game, because, like I said, that offensive line depth is starting to get thin when you have so many of them listed. And Caleb Farley being a full participant, that makes me happy to see.
That would be huge if he can come in and play, and even play a decent game. Honestly, if he's just out there, I will be thrilled just to actually be able to see him in action.
Just getting some work, because I think he had maybe just a little bit of work in the Arizona game, and then I can't remember if he played. No, he didn't even make the trip to Seattle. So he started getting back out there, got out there in preseason, maybe started knocking some of the rust off, or maybe at least getting to that point. Then he was back out again for 3 weeks. So it would be big if we could get him back out there some, even if it's just for his recovery speed.
Honestly, just because of the simple fact that they need some help in the secondary. I mean, that's anybody that has watched the games the past few weeks, they know that. And also, I mean, the Titans, it is time for a first-round draft pick to start doing a little bit in these games. It's getting to that point where you're like, okay, next year we need to take a guy that's kind of a sure deal to
ready
at least
to go.
play.
Yeah.
To at least play.
But also, do still have high hopes for Farley.
Oh, absolutely. That's not to say anything about him. But I would like to, and this is something I preached about before. I mean, I was really harping on this before the season. I was like, we got to have patience with this guy because of this injury. I was really, really preaching that, and almost, I think, a couple episodes in a row. And then, I don't know. I do want to see him out there before at least the end of the season, and I think we will. It's hard, though, to continue to see problems in the secondary, and you're like, well, if they had that first-round defensive back, that might help a little bit. Another thing, the Titans have designated Darrington Evans to return from. He was on injured reserve, and he's now, I believe, returned to practice.
He has, which, then again, you have Marcus Johnson, who returned last week to practice, but I still don't think was active for the game. I could have been wrong.
They have 21 days to actually be active for a game before. If they're not active within that period of time, then they go back to the injured reserve.
Yeah, and I think it's for the rest of the year.
Yeah, and that would suck. So Marcus Johnson and Darrington Evans both definitely need to come back during that time.
And it's interesting seeing Jayon Brown out again, considering he was able to come back, play some snaps in this last game against the Jets, and now he's out of practice again for a knee.
Right.
So, a little concerning there. Still don't know exactly what's going on with Julio. Don't know what's going on there, but it would be nice to at least get one of our top receivers back for this game. And I'm going to be honest, it's a game that I'm labeling as a must-win because
it definitely is a must-win.
It's a division game. And
That's as good a reason as any.
yeah, and we want to stay undefeated in the division right now. The Colts got their first win this past week against Miami, so you have to wonder if maybe that's going to maybe be enough to kind of start them up.
Well, the Colts just had a tough schedule to start the season. I mean,
So
I don't think it's as much on them necessarily not playing good football as much as it was just kind of luck of the draw. I mean,
Right,
they had
and-
a close game with the Rams.
But that's why I'm saying Tennessee has to go in this first game against the Jaguars and win it. It would have been nice to get the one against the Jets, but this one in our division, we need it just to add to that gap there.
I agree. They need to win both games against the Jaguars and the Texans. That would
And
put them
we'd
in
like, we'd like for them to win both against the Colts.
I mean, that's true, but just between those two teams, that would put them in a really good spot for the division.
it would.
They just certainly have to turn things around from the way that it was last week. It cannot be like that. And it seems like with the Titans, there's almost one of those every single year. So hopefully that one is out of the way early in the season. Things can be uphill from here. And that's where we're going to go with this. I mean, thoughts on the game. Let's get into that. We've talked about the injury report and, pretty much the news and headlines. So let's get into talking about this game some. What are you thinking?
I mean, like I kind of said, the main thing that I'm thinking is the Titans need to go down there and take care of business against a team that they shouldn't lose to.
Well, obviously, but this is a Titans podcast where we talk about the games and everything. So
Yeah.
you might expect to get into that a little bit, maybe open the door there.
I'm going to just
throw it
down,
just
calm
throwing that
down a
out
little
there.
bit. Calm down. So, seen a stat today
Just
that
repetitively, they need to win this one. They definitely need to come out with one in the win column here.
they do.
It's
But-
very Mike Vrabel. Come on a podcast to talk about the Titans and then just say, "Yep, they do need to win." That'd be good.
Man, I like getting you fired up a little
No,
bit.
I'm just saying.
So, Vrabel is 0-4 against rookie quarterbacks. Guess what we're going up against this week?
A good rookie quarterback.
Another rookie quarterback.
A good one.
So the first thing I really want to mention on this revolves around the Titans' defense. I feel like they need to bring a lot of pressure. Even though Trevor Lawrence is another one of those quarterbacks now who he's good with his legs too. He can move around, get out of the pocket, extend plays, and take off up the field. So need to make sure when we're getting pressure on him, we're actually getting him down, not just letting him run around, make plays, extend plays long enough for the deep play down the field. Need to bring the pressure, get to him because he is, I can't remember if it's just the lowest rated rookie or the lowest rated quarterback against the blitz right now on his completion percentage. I think I'm remembering that right. It's something around in there. And it's like either 36% or like 39%, something in there. So get after him. Don't give him time to sit back there. I would have liked to have played Jacksonville earlier in the year, just to be honest, because then he has less NFL
experience under his belt.
And which in true Jaguar fashion, they were up 14-0 against the Bengals and let them come back and win. And Jacksonville has a lot going on down there right now.
They definitely do.
And-
But that could have been a huge portion of the news and headlines that we cover at the beginning. So
And it's nothing to do with any of the players.
no, it's not.
It's the head coach, Urban Meyer, deciding that after their Thursday night game against the Bengals, he did not want to fly back with the team, which, seeing all the reports, I've been watching Pat McAfee's show. He's talked to some of his old coaches and just other reporters, and they're like, we've never heard of a head coach not flying back with the team. I mean, that's just something that's very out of the ordinary. Even watching Pat McAfee more, he was like, maybe players, if they play a Thursday night game and they know that they're going to have the next couple of days off, they might can go to other places or fly on a different plane, something like that. But nothing like this. So that's kind of a big distraction down there.
It's definitely kind of weird, something
it is
out of the ordinary.
And it seems like Urban Meyer has lost the respect of some of his players because apparently, according to reports, he canceled their big team meeting on Monday, and he went and met with each individual group, like the receivers, quarterback, and addressed them all separately. And apparently, he would leave the room, and players would just bust out laughing. And so it's kind of a deal down there.
So this is either going to be make or break, kind of, I feel like, for Urban Meyer and the Jaguars. He's gotten some, I guess you could say, praise from Trevor Lawrence and I believe a couple of other guys that are on the team. So this is kind of either going to be that time where they're like, Urban Meyer is our coach, and we're going to come out here and we're going to play. And this could be something that turns their season around, or this could be the thing that really drives them into their grave.
Which is another reason why, like, I know I've been saying because it's a division game, it's a must-win. But with everything going on down there right now, you cannot go down there and lose this game.
You can't let this be the game that sparks the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Exactly. And looking at their defensive their rankings throughout the league, they are 9th in passing touchdowns allowed. They've only allowed 6. They are 30th in the passing yards, though. And then looking at rushing, they are 13th ranked for their defense for rushing yards allowed, 5th against yards per attempt, only allowing 3.5. That being said, they have not faced Derrick Henry yet this year, so that could change a little bit. And they are 26th against rushing touchdowns. They've allowed 6. And one thing I wanted to point out, because I did mention Derrick Henry going against them, in his last 5 games against the Jaguars, he has had 104 rush attempts for 740 yards, averaging 7.1 yards per carry, and has 9 rushing touchdowns.
Yeah, he's definitely had, from what I can remember, it's like every single game against the Jaguars, he just has an absolute game. And that just seems like it's a continued trend. And the only times I can really think of, I feel like the Thursday night football game that they lost to Jacksonville a couple years back.
Mm-hmm.
But he came back in that season and had a monster game at Nissan Stadium against them. Of course, the 99-yard run against the Jaguars. So it definitely could be a huge game for him. And I mean, he's really just been something else so far this season. So
he has. And, we want to hit on their pass rush a little bit. The Jaguars only have 5 sacks so far this season.
But the Titans are notorious for giving up sacks so far.
That's what I was going to say. The Titans have given up 17 sacks this season. So let's hope that the offensive line comes ready to play and can keep Tannehill upright and not give up any more, not give any sacks to Jacksonville.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's Taylor Lewan listed with the toe injury.
That hasn't practiced at all this week.
You have Aaron Brewer. So many guys listed here. Ben Jones, who was limited in practice today, that are listed on this injury report. So even though the Jaguars are not necessarily, they don't have a strong pass rush, it's still something to be concerned about because the Titans haven't been good against pass rush anyways, and they're beat up. Honestly, they're beat up all around. So it is another one of these weeks where you're like, okay, this is a team that they should beat, but they're definitely still going to have to be on their game because there's not a lot going for them right now. Right.
And, the Jaguars do have some guys on defense that, are their main guys. You have Miles Jacks, Shaquem, how do you say it? Is it?
I'm not even going to try to pronounce it, but the Griffin guy, the defensive back.
The cornerback.
Right.
And they have a rookie cornerback. They traded away C.J. Henderson. I believe he's with the Panthers now.
Yep.
And, the Titans just need to go down there and take advantage of this defense and really, I guess, even some of these stats back out, because we don't need to see Jacksonville in the top 10 or even the top 15 in some of these stats.
Yeah, definitely not. I think it's time now that we kind of segue over into our segments that are weekly segments. Some of them bi-weekly as we look at the best bets that we're about to get into. We do them before the game, and then after the game, we check back in and see how we did. This Best Bets segment presented to you by DraftKings, an official. Sometimes it gets really hard to keep the word straight here. An official sports betting partner of the NFL. We're coming up on week 5, and if you haven't gotten into betting with the NFL yet, it makes the games a lot more interesting to watch. And obviously we have this segment where we give you some bets that we like, and this is definitely not betting advice. So whether you go with them or not is absolutely your choice. But regardless of whether you go with our bets or not, you should check out DraftKings Sportsbook. They have an offer. Use promo code TPPN, and new customers can bet just $1 on any NFL game and win $100 in free bets if either team scores a point. This is the same offer that I talked about last week, and it's
earlier this week.
I guess. But I guess it would have been our reaction video, and this is the time to use it. I mean, there hasn't been a 0-0 game since 1943. So it's extremely unlikely. I mean, they're giving you $100 to bet with here. What could be better? If the sportsbook's not available, I know that we're right here on the Alabama line, me and you. And so in Alabama, the sportsbook is not available. You can use the code TPPN for DFS, DraftKings. They have these daily fantasy lineups that have huge prizes. You can use it on there as well to get some type of promo incentive there. I'm not exactly sure what that one is, but go use TPPN there or on the Sportsbook app. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use promo code TPPN. Throw down a $1 bet on any NFL game and win $100 in free bets if either team scores a point. That's promo code TPPN this week at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Must be 21 or older, new customers only, minimum $5 deposit and $1 wager required, one per customer. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. That was, I was definitely having trouble speaking a little bit during that whole, definitely. So hope everybody made it through that with me, because I don't know. Normally that does not happen to me.
Well, I'll help you out a little bit right now, and we'll actually get into our bets that we feel like are the best bets for this week.
Before we get into it, I'd like to throw out some general information. The spread, the Titans are favored by 4 points, and then the total for the game, 48.5 points. So
right. And earlier today, talking to our friend Jacob Patterson, he sent that the Titans at the time were 4.5 point favorites, and he was saying, well, looks like the Titans are going to lose this week just because the spread's that close. But
well, it looks like there's money coming in on the Jags now because it's moving that way. So
we'll save a little bit of that for later. But looking at some of the bets on the DraftKings app, and found a couple that I'm like, okay, I feel like that may be a good bet for this week. Do want to tell everyone listening, though, this is not betting advice. Do not take what we say and automatically assume that you are going to win money, because that is not the case.
Because Tyler has a losing record so far, actually.
Oh, here we go again. Anyways, my first bet that I'm going to go with is Derrick Henry to have over 23.5 rushing attempts. So he only has to be handed the ball 24 times, and that hits. And I think that's going to happen. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that one. I didn't actually even see that one on there, but that's pretty interesting.
It came up not long before we started recording. I was able to find it.
So and sometimes when we do these episodes on Thursday, they don't have all of the stuff up on there yet. So that is one benefit to going on a little bit later on Friday. But regardless, I was able to find some stuff that I liked.
But, I mean, I like that one because we've seen Henry getting a lot of touches this year. And even if the Titans were to get up by a lot in this game, I still feel like that's probably going to come after he hits maybe the 24, 25 carry mark.
Okay. Yeah, so, I mean, I think that one is kind of right on that line where if they do end up getting up by a lot, like you said, he's going to be right there at that 23, 24, 25. So it has a good chance of hitting. I feel like the only scenario where you see that not happen is if the Titans get up way, way early. Like first quarter, second quarter, they're up 2-3 touchdowns. For me, I don't see that happening because I have the under 48.5 total points. The under's hit in 3 of Jacksonville's 4 games, and that's pretty much all I got to say about that.
So I did think about that one, but I decided not to go with it because I can't remember exactly how many of the last. It's either like 7 of 8 or all 8 of the Titans' last road games have hit the over.
That's the thing that I love about this, and coming up with a bet and coming up with something to back your bet. You can literally come up with something, find some statistic that can back every single bet.
Right, and that's why I was afraid to go with the under because I'm like, okay, what if this does turn into a shootout? But I don't know how many more you have. I have a couple more wrote down here. But again, these
I'm sticking with 2.
All right, I'll stick with 2 as well. These are ones that I've kind of been going back and forth on, but I'm going to stick with Derrick Henry again, just because of the touches that he has been getting, which, granted, he only had 2 catches last week, but I'm going with the over on 2.5 receptions.
Okay.
So all he needs is 3 catches.
All in all, you're essentially saying at least 27 touches?
27 touches.
At least 27 touches for Derrick Henry, because that includes 24 carries for him at least, and then his 3 catches. It's definitely like he gets the ball a lot, and he's been a lot more involved in the passing game.
And I may be cheesing this a little bit because I need to get back to a little bit better record, so I'm going with the ones that I feel like are more likely to happen. Not actually putting this one down, but the other one I had wrote down was Trevor Lawrence over a half interception.
Basically just to throw an interception.
Yeah, just to throw an interception. But the Titans haven't really been making teams turn the ball over, so I decided I'll go with...
Although their defense has been better, they haven't been causing as many turnovers.
Right, so I figured I'd go with Derrick Henry and see if he can pull through for me.
Well, I am going to shake things up a little bit because I am going to break out something that is new to DraftKings this season, and that is the same game parlay.
Okay.
So if you don't know, I am combining 2 bets to get a little bit of extra, little bit extra payout if my bet hits.
So technically, you did have 3. You just combined them into the same game parlay.
Yeah, but the same game parlay, it either hits or it doesn't. I mean, it's not one of those where
I like doing those parlays. My bank account doesn't like it, but I like doing it because, like you said, you can get more winnings.
So obviously, if only one of these hits, the other doesn't, I don't get any credit for it at all. Jaguars on the alternate spread of plus 6.5.
Okay.
So as long as they lose by 6 points or less, that hits, and then the Titans to score the first points of the game. Parlaying those together, I can't remember exactly what the odds were on that. I want to say like plus 300. So essentially $3 for every dollar you put in. But yeah, I like that one. I think that especially with the way that the spread is kind of trending right now, I think the Jaguars keep it to a relatively close game. And I definitely like the Titans to come out and score first.
All right, I can respect that.
Yeah. So now let's put this out there just before we move on. Two two right and 2 incorrect, I guess you could say. I guess we could just say 2 and 2 for me, and 1 and 3 for you. I just have to hold on to that because I'm not ahead in bold predictions. So
I will get it even back out, and I will stay ahead in bold predictions, which we'll get to later.
I'm helping you out a little bit this week because I have the same game parlay on there. But let's move into the stat chat. And what I have for this week's stat chat, it's a quick, short segment, but yeah, I think it is really interesting. So you had talked about some of the Jaguars' rankings earlier and kind of how their defense ranked against the run, against the pass. And what I want to mention is I want to talk about explosive plays. And the Jaguars actually are the best team in the league at not allowing explosive run plays. And so what are explosive run plays? I mean, what qualifies? So when I looked over the chart for what was actually charted as an explosive run play against the Jaguars, it looks like anything over 10 yards is being counted as an explosive run play.
Okay.
So with 123 rushing attempts against them, they have only allowed 6 explosive runs, which is just 5%. And you know, teams are running a lot against them too. So you might think, well, if they're running more against them, they would give up more explosive runs, but that's just not the case. They've been really good at kind of keeping those, I guess, corralled. You know, I mean, they're not giving up long runs. 123 rushes against them. That's ranked as the 5th most in the NFL for how many rush attempts they have against them. Where they give up their big plays, however, is against the pass. And the criteria for, obviously, it's easier to throw a longer pass than it is to get a longer run. So the criteria for an explosive pass play is 20 yards rather than 10.
Okay.
So that kind of evens that out there a little bit. Against 138 pass attempts, the Jaguars have given up 19 explosive plays for 14%, which is the 2nd highest rate in the NFL, just below the Detroit Lions with 18%. This is going to be important for the Titans. They're a team that has not been able to really get anything explosive at all going in the passing game. I mean, I think what you would say their passing game is definitely less than explosive. So this could be huge for them. I mean, if A.J. Brown can come back, and I mean, I don't know. If A.J. Brown could come back, maybe, I don't know what it's looking like for Julio, but get some of those guys back and send Chester Rogers deep, send some of these quicker guys deep. We know A.J. Brown could go deep. You have an opportunity here to take advantage. I see you over there. They can take advantage of this Jaguars defense that gives up these explosive plays. And for the Titans, I mean, overall, for guys that have touched the ball or caught more than 5 passes this season, they have a rate of 6% of explosive pass plays. So their guys are only getting 6% of pass plays to that explosive rate, whereas the league average is 10%.
And I think that's all you had for the stat chat session.
Yeah,
right?
That's it.
All right, well, now it's time to get into our quick hitters. First thing's going to be key to the game. So what is your key to the game going to be for the Titans this week?
For me, it absolutely comes right off of the stat chat. I mean, stretch the field, get some of the fast receivers downfield, make some things happen. We talked about the offensive line earlier. They also have to protect long enough for something to develop downfield.
All right. Well, my key to the game, I mentioned this earlier about how Trevor Lawrence has not been good when teams blitz him. Titans, send pressure. Get after him. Make him get off his spot and try and make some big plays downfield. Got to hope our secondary holds up and doesn't give up that big play down the field, but get after him, make him uncomfortable. Don't let the rookie settle in.
Maybe we'll see Caleb Farley out there to kind of even things out there in the secondary.
Maybe so. And now it's time to get into our bold predictions and score predictions like we've been doing, incorporating some fan and friend predictions into here. And man, do I have a list to read off here. So let's go ahead and get started. Going to start off with friend of the show, Jacob Patterson. Figured we'd start off with him because, his Jets did beat us last week. He has the Jaguars winning this game 23-21. And his bold prediction is that James Robinson is going to have more total yards than Derrick Henry. So we'll see about that. Then another friend of the show, Spencer, his score prediction, he has the Titans rebounding really good. And this would be good for the over.
Not for my under.
not for your under. He has the Titans winning 44-17.
That's a lot of points.
That is a lot of points. His bold prediction is that Derrick Henry has 150 total yards. He gets pulled out of the game because of the lead that the Titans have. And he says that the Titans defense will have 3 picks and 3 sacks against the Jaguars. Another friend of the show, Drake, his score prediction is 35-21, Titans winning. His bold prediction is Derrick Henry having over 200 total yards. Now, another big friend of the show. I know you haven't got to go on his show yet or really talk to him, but the Power Hour. You can find him on Twitter at the Power Hour 615 and his YouTube, the Power Hour. Awesome guy, knows his stuff. He has the Titans bouncing back in this game, and I thought it was kind of funny because of all the Urban Meyer stuff going on. His literal words were, Titans bounce back after looking stale and grind the Jags. And so his score prediction is Titans winning 31-17. His bold prediction, Henry over 200 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns. My amazing wife, Carrie, her score prediction, Titans winning 24-19. Bold prediction, she says Trevor Lawrence throws 3 interceptions this game. Now, my brother-in-law, obviously Carrie's brother, Thomas Peterson, his score prediction, he has the Jaguars winning this game 17-10. And his bold prediction is Henry has 95 yards rushing. And then another friend of the show, Levi Kelly, he has the Titans winning this game 28-21. Bold prediction, Tannehill rushes for 100+ yards. So,
interesting. I actually think that's the most likely out of all of the.
That's interesting considering earlier this year Tannehill had his best rushing game and it was like 50-something yards.
Well, I know, but from what I was looking at today, the Jaguars have given up some pretty big runs to quarterbacks. I mean, the quarterbacks were included in a couple of those explosive runs that they've given up, so that's just kind of why I just kind of felt like that one might have a decent shot. If Tannehill can break, a couple of 20, 30+ yard runs, there you go, you got it.
And now I'm going to let you go first after I've read off this big long list. We're going to switch it up for ours a little bit. Normally we would both give our bold prediction and then our score prediction, but go ahead and give them both.
Yeah, so I'll go ahead with my score prediction. Titans 20, Jaguars 17. I think, like I said earlier, I think it'd be a close game. For my bold prediction, neither team scores a touchdown in the first half.
All right, interesting. I'm hoping that's not the case. I'm hoping the Titans are able to actually put up touchdowns in the first half and not just field goals, but we'll see. I've been going back and forth on this one a lot because obviously it's the Jaguars. I want to have the Titans blowing the Jaguars out, but I'm actually going to say that the Titans win 27-23. And
bravo for setting the bias aside for just 1 week. Just 1 week. I'm really, really proud of you for that.
I haven't had them just winning by a lot in every game that I've picked them, but
well, I'm very proud of you for being realistic.
My bold prediction is going to be this one's a little tough. I think Harold Landry ends up with 3 sacks.
3 sacks. I thought you were going to go with 2, but hey,
no, I'm going to go with he's going to have 3 sacks.
That would definitely be interesting
because he's been getting the pressure. but it hasn't necessarily added up to sacks. So I feel like that's a decent one to go with. I mean, what's your thoughts?
I don't know,
man. We're kind of the judges of this. If the other
that's bold. That's bold.
Okay.
See, I thought you were going to go with 2. I would have considered that bold. So you could have gotten away with that there.
All right. Correction.
No. But yeah, I'm okay with it. I'm fine with it because I don't think it happens. So.
Okay.
Which they're bold, so they're not.
I mean,
they're supposed to not happen a lot more than they do.
Exactly.
So,
which is why last year, throughout the whole season, you only got one right, and this year I just so happened to get lucky, and I got the one for the start of the season right, and
exactly.
It may never happen again.
Yeah, you got the 1-0 lead on me, and I'm looking to come back with that. Maybe there'll be no touchdowns in the first half.
Maybe.
Have you got anything else to add?
I don't believe so.
That's all that I've got. Hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure you leave a comment, like all that good stuff that Tyler said at the beginning of the podcast. And this has been Titans Time. And as always, tighten up.